Too late. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you are watching this podcast. Welcome to the Real Deal Landman Show. Drew Hopkins, Jerris Johnson, our very special guest from the way up north, Janice Redmond, all the way from Calgary. Is that right?
Yes.
We're going to be talking about, I don't know, like moose, Justin Trudeau, ketchup chips, and what else is very... a little hockey, maybe?
I don't travel much, so I am ecstatic to have like a foreigner on our show.
Is
I don't
this
like
our first
like what time is
international-
it there right now? Or what day is it?
What?
I think it's Monday. Last I checked.
Okay, so we're on the
I think-
same day. I
Same
wasn't
day.
sure.
Exciting.
That is
we're on
exciting.
The same time zone too, though. Like you're on Mountain Standard, aren't you on?
I am.
Yeah. So yeah, you're not in the future or the past. You're in the present. So we're
I'm
good.
I'm 1 hour in the
less
future
exciting.
ahead of both of you, so I can let you know exactly how everything's going. So fantastic. Well, and the connection here too is I was just in Calgary last week,
Mhm.
and so got to experience the great weather that you guys are always known for. And I learned, Jerris, do you know what a Chinook is?
A Chinook?
Uh-huh.
No, but I know what a toboggan is, and apparently it's not a sled.
You also know what a toque is now too. Mhm.
Is a toque the same as a toboggan?
No, we had this conversation.
I know,
Toque?
but I forget easily.
You did bring up toboggan though. But
Okay,
yes,
so what's a toque?
a toque? A hat.
A toque is
Like a
like
beanie.
a stocking cap?
Yeah, like a beanie.
I thought that's what a toboggan was.
No, a toboggan's like a sled.
I thought you said that the toboggan was also a hat.
No,
Really?
you were like.
Oh. Let me tell you, for the hundreds of thousands of people that are tuned into this show, it is starting off with a bang whenever we're going toboggan talk. That is big time.
The toque is the hat?
The toque is the hat, yeah.
So
Toboggan is not a hat.
No,
It's
no.
only a sled.
I would have
I think
assumed that
so.
you would have had your toque on that I gave you. I
I
figured you'd
know.
be.
I have it right. I do have it here. But you've got enough branding on your own with the screen,
That's
so
true.
yeah, it's
This
not
is true.
necessary.
boy,
Totally.
so I didn't know a toque. Is it TOOK?
No, it's TOQUE.
What?
Yeah.
We gotta
That
I know.
hurts.
we gotta
What
do
is that
something about
again?
this.
You gotta
That
spend more
is
time. You have to spend more time here next time you come.
okay.
Is that how the French pronounce it as well? That sounds like a French spelling. And they
It
say
is.
toque?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, and Janice, correct me on this, but so I was told a Chinook, and whenever someone told me that the first time, the immediate first thing that me as a American citizen is, I'm like, that's a helicopter. Because is that right, Jerris? I mean, there's a Chinook helicopter.
Yeah, isn't there
Is that
also
right?
like a tire brand that's Chinook?
Maybe, I don't know. But Janice, tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. If I'm explaining it the way that it was explained to me, is it just in Calgary that this is really known for?
Yeah, in
Is
the
that right?
foothills.
And so it is where you guys are located. And the thing that I really liked, so we could talk 2 hours about how much I love being up there. I thought Calgary was beautiful. This was my first experience to go there. We went in a couple days early and we went up to Banff, and it was so gorgeous. Like, it was one of the absolute prettiest places I've ever been. Top 5 for sure.
Oh.
Very, very cold. Went up to Lake Louise and walked around on the frozen lake. Is it the
you hit
Fairmont
up all
Hotel?
the Insta-worthy.
Oh yeah, it was 100%. If I was really big in on Instagram, I guarantee I would have gained some followers that day. So it was so stinking cool. And then is it the Fairmont Hotel that's there and in Banff?
Yes,
And
yeah.
they're
There's
just-
a Fairmont. There's Fairmont in Lake Louise, and then the Fairmont, the castle. Did you go to the castle in Banff?
Yes, in Banff. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The views that they have there are unbelievable, and it was just a really, really cool experience. So for the first time of being able to go up there, it was absolutely wonderful. And then we had business in Calgary last Monday, and they said, well, it's pretty cool that you're in. There is that every once in a while we have what's called a Chinook, and the temperature can change so quickly and it's very much like Denver, of you can see the mountains off in the distance, but where Calgary and where Denver are is kind of in the plains. And the way, I guess, the air comes across like the mountains, it can have the cold air can get on top of the warm air and hold it down over the city. And it almost makes like a UFO ring around the city to where you can see, where you can see like the sunlight just on the horizon. And then it's like a cloud dome almost over you holding that in. But did I do a decent job of explaining that?
You
Or
did
can
a
you?
great job. You just didn't talk about the things that come with it, right?
Okay, what comes with it?
What
The
comes with
barometric
it,
pressure
Chinook?
changes.
Ooh,
So
okay.
people like me, susceptible to migraines. So it's a few days of,
Really?
let's just say pain. Pain is
No
probably
kidding.
their PG term for it.
And how often does it happen?
We've had a like warm winter, which is not common here. You're lucky that you got here when you did, because we have this thing where the city of Calgary refuses to plow the roads, because they wait for a Chinook. So
Interesting.
yeah, so it was probably a little icy when you got here, because it's been back and forth between cold, warm, cold, warm. So yeah, I mean, averaging maybe like once every 6 to 8 weeks. It could be more. We've had quite a few this season though. So
That is something else. And have you lived in Calgary your whole life?
no, actually, from the East Coast originally. So
Really?
I grew up on the border. So I have lots of family in the States, right? So my parents, I grew up about 10 minutes from the border of Maine and New Brunswick. So
Nice.
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I was border brat.
And was it college or a job that brought you back to Calgary or to Calgary?
Love, actually.
Really? Hey.
Yeah.
Make us do crazy things, right?
Yeah, you know what? We met in university, and at the time there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity out there for me, and came out after university, and I've been here for 20 years. So
Holy cow.
So he was from Calgary.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was playing hockey out there.
That's the most Canadian thing we're going to say on this show until the next thing. When you start giving us an about instead of about, I don't know. I'm waiting for it.
I'm waiting for you. Like I said, I was like, I'm not dropping any of the A's, and I'm not saying sorry.
That's right. So
But yeah.
what are the like? So whenever we're talking back and forth, and so does Canada Westland, is the work that you guys do strictly all Canadian assets?
Right now it is. We are expanding into the States.
Nice.
So the last little bit we've been focusing on that. So that's pretty exciting.
So what are you thinking with international relations, whenever we're talking about boots and all of the different things? So whenever you're talking to Americans like the two very fine gentlemen that you've got here, what are some of the things that you would think that, or is the stereotypical Oklahoman or Coloradan thing to say? Or I guess we're both Oklahomans at heart,
Just
right?
your accent. Like you guys have accents, and I don't. But then when I come down, everybody says I have an accent. So yeah, it's the
Jerris, I feel like she's singling you out here because, I mean, obviously I'm a very well-educated, well-spoken man.
Yeah,
so.
poor Jerris.
Thank you.
I don't know
welcome.
what you're talking about.
It's like the Southern drawl, right? Like,
Oh,
like
man.
we come down to Texas, and I'm like surrounded, but everybody tells me I'm the oddball. So I don't know.
So what does Canada West do, and what do you do for Canada West?
So we're a land broker, and we've been around for 45 years. We just celebrated our 45th. And so I work with Canada West on the corporate development side. So sales, marketing, you name it.
Nice.
That's where I'm at.
So American landmen like to brag that the U.S. is the only country in the world where private individuals can own mineral rights. Is that true?
That is not true. You can own
Okay.
it in Canada. Yes. They're
Is
far
it
and few
common?
between. No, it's not. I would say like, Alberta specifically, you're probably looking at about 7 to 10% now. But we also have like fee title, right? So companies like royalty companies that own, right? But yeah, we do a lot of crown work. There's no question the crown owns.
And what kind of complications comes with that?
There's just different ways in how we handle things, right? And it's the same as in the States. You're just dealing with different regulatory bodies, different regulations that come with that, right? So I mean, we don't have all day.
Yeah.
We could do a part 2 and maybe up to a part 10. It's yeah, very, very heavily regulated here. And I mean, that's how it is. I think it's across the country too. You also have to deal with the provincial jurisdictions as well as the local, right? So depending on, what sandbox you're playing in that day, it could vary, right? So, and then you cross a provincial boundary and, you're having to deal with the federal side of things where you have to deal with the CER. So, which is the Canadian Energy Regulator.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys have your alphabet soup down in the States too, right?
Oh, yeah.
We do. Absolutely.
What about permitting?
Permitting, depending on what you're going after, right? So if you're going after oil and gas, it varies between that and renewables and what you're after, essentially. So, yeah. So you're dealing with different regulatory bodies.
Has there been a large, groundswell of renewable and I mean, I feel like North America, there's been a pretty big push for renewable, and we see so many more wind turbines and everything. Is that prevalent in Canada as well, or where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2016 in Alberta specifically, there was a new government that came in, and there's always been renewables here, but it didn't get to what it is now without their encouragement of investing in the development of that. So now we're seeing Alberta is just going through a moratorium specifically. So if you can't develop on certain class lands. I don't have a lot of experience on the east side of things, but I do know that there's a pickup on focusing in Nova Scotia specifically. The Maritimes are seeing an uptick. Ontario is now seeing an uptick again as well. But it varies, right? You have to have a willing landowner. There's still a lot of private agreements that come into play with this. So without a willing landowner, it's not like you can expropriate the land. So a little different. And
so that would be all surface rights, correct? Yes. Okay. And that still is split out no matter if the Crown owns minerals throughout. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
See,
you can own both, but it's rare. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And lots of hoops to jump through if you were to own both? Or not really?
Not really. I don't think it really doesn't make a difference. It's easier because, you're dealing with one point of contact versus could be multiple points of contact. But it varies project to project.
If you are looking to expand into North America and get outside you guys' norm, I would say you are getting ready to enter into that world of multiple owners and split so many different ways between family members. How do you prepare for something like that?
You have to have a good team. Honestly, it's the people that make what we do easy. Otherwise, if you don't have somebody that knows the lay of the land, no pun intended, then it's really difficult.
So have you been at Canada West this whole time, or did you jump around to different places?
No, yeah, actually, I've been in the industry close to 20 years. So I've been on the service side the majority.
So when you moved to Calgary, that's when you got into the industry?
No, actually, I
was
2 years here. I was my day job back then. I was a lifeguard, so big transition.
Is it?
So I went
good night. Yeah,
that sounds like the Chesapeake Landman route.
What do? Fitness center. Go on. Land it.
I kind of fell into it. I was looking at a job board and somebody told me that I should look at getting into land because my background, I have a double major in poli-sci and pre-law. And so I started off, and honestly, I'll tell you about my interview. It's hilarious. I interviewed and I didn't know anything about what I was applying for. It was just shoot from the hip, see if it works. I honestly thought I bombed it. I was like, they're not going to call me back. There's no way, right? They're asking me all these technical questions and I'm like, I have no idea. So you applied for this job? And I'm like, well, yeah, said I needed this, and this. I thought, why not? You don't know until you try, right? So a couple months go by and I get a phone call for a second interview and I was like, okay, cool. Going for my second interview and sitting across from me was one of the owners of the company at the time. And he's like, so you want a job, hey? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, so so-and-so. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'm reading your resume and it says you worked here. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, that's my cousin. So it was like,
nice.
Oh, okay. So, the whole claim to fame of, Joe in Canada is actually
just legit. Get that foot in the door. That's the main thing, right?
Yeah,
I'll learn it on the fly.
Exactly. So I didn't actually start my career in negotiating. I actually started doing administration at the time. So I was pulling titles, and I pulled titles for a few months, and I was like, okay, this is fun. Yeah, let's not do this any longer. Then started more into the doc prep, and then wanted to do more, and just kept asking to do more. And the more I asked, the more they gave. And then I'm on my third company now. So within 18, 19 years, I think I'm a pretty loyal person. But yeah, it's been great. It's been a ride. I've touched basically every aspect there is of land, and still continuing. So yeah,
Were
love
those
it.
Fantastic.
Were those first two jobs, were they also with land brokers, or have you worked with operators, or however
No,
that?
I've always been on the service side. I have been seconded into clients to work on the operator side, for small projects and whatnot. So, but the majority of my career has always been on the broker side.
So one of the things that we see, and it's not always, but it is something that happens like on the American side, on the landman path, you get a lot of people who start off on the service side or the broker side, vendor side, and they start that route, but their goal is to end up in-house working for an operator. Like I said, that's not across the board, but there are a lot of people, and so they'll take that field route to get a foot in the door into the land profession with the hopes that they get into an operator. Does that happen a lot on the Canadian side as well? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. The brokers are known to be like a training ground, because you get to touch so many different projects when you're at a broker, right? And so the experience that you gain from being at a broker, like you can't compete with that, right? So it does happen. So we definitely have some turnover when it comes to that. But yeah, like you want that though. You want people to progress their careers, and there's lifers like me that'll probably always be on this service side. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Absolutely.
It's what works for you.
And why do you prefer the service side?
I like the challenge, honestly. I think just being able to work in different fields, different industries, like not just primarily oil and gas. We service renewables, power. There's just so much more, right? And for me, like I'm client facing now. So, I mean, I have a few projects that I continue to work on, but for the most part, like I'm starting to transition more into not doing project work, which is nice too. It's nice. It's nice to go back to my roots. Makes me sound old, but
We
yeah, I
had
can
that
still pull a
discussion
title.
the other day.
Yeah. I could still pull a title, but don't tell the leadership team here that I could pull titles.
Yeah.
So they might find another use. So, but yeah.
We talked about just where you're saying at that stage of all of our careers, Jerris and I have talked about on the last few episodes of how we start seeing like, and you're coming to NAPE next week, right? I believe, right?
I am, yeah.
It's so fun to be able to see kind of a young generation of a lot of people that are graduating from college and coming into the field. Do you still see a lot of people like in Calgary and just all throughout Canada? Is there a still large swell of people going through like energy degrees to try to find those jobs, or has that kind of slowed down?
It's slowed down. So we didn't have a lot of success with the programs getting bums in seats, essentially. And so the programs ceased to exist. So those programs were placed on hold. And so now we're seeing an uptick in people wanting to do more. But a lot of the times what you're seeing is people coming in with like an undergraduate degree, and then going to like a broker like us and getting their training from there. So a lot of brokers like us have had to do our own internal training systems just because the educational opportunities aren't there to support them. So
makes sense.
And so
what do you think about the kids these days being so mouthy? Like Jerris' son last week called me Gramps online.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just because of bad parenting or whatever it is, but I mean, I'm a proud 43-year-old man.
In fairness, you did diss him for playing the bass drum.
Well, I would expect somebody that plays the bass drum to have a little more class than that, to speak to his elders like this.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 young ones at home, and every day is something. I'll just leave it.
So I guess and granted, this is yours and my first meeting. I'm guessing your children, how old?
13 and almost 9.
Boys? Both
Girl
boys?
and boys.
Girl and boy. So the boy is in his 4th year of playing hockey.
Yeah, actually.
Okay, and the girl is, I don't know what girls do in Canada.
And
What,
her
rides a moose, or what's the deal?
playing hockey. Well, girls
What?
play hockey too, man.
Yeah, my daughter actually plays hockey too.
She plays hockey too?
Mhm.
Fantastic.
What kind of a sexist are you?
Not a good one.
Yeah.
Not a good one at
Look,
all.
I was just gonna say, so what does it take to be a good hockey mom?
Yeah.
you know what? You really have to know where all the rinks are. You have to pack really good snacks. And just show up.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's got to be a big deal because anytime most of the times I've been around you, like at a AAPL board meeting or something, we'll be at a dinner and Janice is in the corner and she's like trying to stream a hockey game on her phone. And this isn't like public television hockey. This is a private link stream that the league puts out that she's then watching on the phone to see how her teams are doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Granted, we have to give Drew the background on that. So it was my daughter who was playing for a place to play in the Alberta Winter Games. This was last year.
That's awesome.
And so it was like do or die. And so I think it was game 3. And of course, so Adam was with me and we were out for dinner after one of our board meetings and we're sitting there having dinner and we had the game on my phone, which is typical, honestly, because when you do have multiple children in sports, you have to divide and conquer. So we have subscriptions to all of, like, Live Barn is one, Flow Hockey is another, just to name a few. Not that I'm giving them any spotlights.
Sponsorship opportunities here.
Send the check later.
Yeah, that's right.
But you want to be involved, and there's only so many hours in a day, so you do what you can, right? And not every barn is equipped with it. So a lot of the team apps that we use, parents can have like a clock running within the app, and it tells you, like, if another parent has to manage it, so they have to go in, run the clock, update the score. It's all up to the parent on how much they want to invest their time while they're watching the game too. And then, the other issue is internet connectivity when you're in some of these places.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
did you say barn?
I said barn, yeah.
Okay, what's a barn?
It's the rink. It's an arena where you play hockey.
I didn't know that. Did you know that, Drew?
I was surmising that, yes.
We'll call
Need to keep it running. Okay, so I've learned Chinook. I totally had toboggan wrong. I've learned took or took? Took. And I've learned barn. Okay, let's keep going. All right.
We got to keep pressing ahead here. I learned from, and the wonderful people that we went to meet last week, the things I learned about, they had kids your children's age who adamantly in hockey, and they said at that age, like, rink time is kind of hard to get. They said a lot of time for the younger crowd, it was later in the evening. And they said, and I mean, I don't know if this is your experience, but they were like, a lot of times these games start at like 9, sometimes 10 o'clock at night.
Oh my God.
And they were like, just because it is competitive to be able to get that time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not enough ice.
Which is amazing.
Really.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's so bizarre, but it is expensive too, right? And because there's a demand, you're paying by the hour essentially. So, a lot of the times when the younger ones, so when both my kids started, when they were like, I think 5, 6, we were on the ice at like 6:30 in the morning on our weekend.
Holy smokes.
So they were getting up earlier for practice and games than they were for school. So you're committed when.
That is commitment. That's big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
so
really
like a 9 o'clock start at night for my 13-year-old, like, yeah, it's late, but I'll
better
take that
than
any day
5
over.
in the morning. Yeah,
Jeez.
exactly.
And speaking of expense, like, hockey itself is a pretty expensive sport, right?
Oh,
like the equipment. I mean,
that was the next thing I was going to say.
Okay.
They told me how much the hockey sticks were, and I was absolutely floored.
Wait, for a stick?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much is a stick?
Hold on. Without, and I would guess I'm going to be close since I heard a answer. What do you think they are, Jerris? How much do you think a hockey stick is?
We talking? Okay, let's say, I don't know.
You can say it in English. She'll
say
convert
a
it
base in English. Okay. Let's say for like a cheap one, but one that you can still use, $80.
And from what I heard, so was it 300 that's the average?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Canadian.
that more?
What's that made
That's-
out of? Is that
Composite.
okay?
Yeah.
It's amazing. And
I
that
don't know.
also,
Like, all fairness, guys, like this whole hockey thing, like I am true hockey mom, but when it comes to like anything else, I married into it.
that's
So
wonderful.
I can't even skate. Like, it's embarrassing.
Oh,
I
man.
can't skate circles.
But you're so supportive. That's wonderful. That's
Like-
fantastic.
I discovered years ago that I am a natural ice skater. And that's legit. Like, I did not know that I knew how to ice skate, but apparently I'm like a pretty decent natural ice skater. Now, that said, I've only done it like 5 times in my life.
Okay, but who's judging you on this? I feel like we need to see this.
Well, so
I do too. I'm completely with you.
So the other 4 or 5-year-olds that are out there say that I'm really good at it. And that's given me it's given me a lot of confidence to where I was like, I should have played hockey growing up. And so that's like something that I always feel like I should have had.
Maybe you've still got a couple of years of eligibility. I don't know.
That's true. They do have hockey in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're in a good space right now. So maybe that's something you should take up as, a hobby that you have all this time for, right?
I mean, he
all the
totally
time.
do it. We could cut this show to a 30-minute show, and the other 30 minutes could just be live stream of Jerris just going around a ring.
Me on the
love
ice.
To see it. I'd love
I'd
to see it.
do that in a heartbeat, actually.
We had in Edmond, Oklahoma, where I went to college. I took a girl on a date to our rink, and I had in the 90s. I don't want to, again, like last episode we were talking about how cool Jerris and I were because we were both in band. But I also had the good pair of the inline rollerblades. And so if that paints any picture of the 90s for Drew Hopkins, I was pretty good on rollerblades. I was pretty good. And so I was like, this is going to be a no-brainer. I'm going to absolutely she's going to be wowed, is what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. And so we go to the hockey rink and in the barn, I guess. And I'm going around and I was like, this is so easy. I'm going to go faster and faster and faster. And as fast as I can, then I'm going to go right at her. And I'm going to do like the skid stop or whatever they call that, where it's like you're just going and then you just turn sideways. And I turned sideways and I didn't realize that it would come to a halt so quickly. And I went just like, I mean, ass over tea kettle all the way, down, hitting the side. Thought I broke my hip at like the ripe age of like 18 or 19 or whatever it was, which is a little early if you think. But oh yeah, it was awful. Did not get a second date out of the deal, but I remember it fondly. She was very kind in helping me to my car. So good times. I think that may be the last time I actually was on the ice. Oh man, yeah.
Your career ended just there.
I never went professional. It's really sad.
Could have wished her.
I know. No.
Janice is not just a landman. And she's not just a Canadian landman, but she's an extremely famous Canadian landman.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah, because you've had all kinds of we'll call it public service, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like your leadership career, you were president of whatever the Canadian. Did it change names? Is that why I get confused?
It did, yeah. So you're gonna get confused.
Oh, okay. That's why I get confused. Okay, so what did it used to be called, and what is it called now?
So the acronym was CAPL, so Canadian Association of Petroleum Landmen.
That's the one I knew, but it's not that anymore?
No, it's CALA. So Canadian Association of Land and Energy Professionals.
Gotcha.
So my claim to fame is that I was responsible for the name change. Nice. And so I was the last president of CAPL and the first president of CALA.
Very cool. And so what the name change, did it change because it was including more people under the landman title?
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Petroleum, we're talking like 1948 when the association was started by like 8 people. And our rules evolved, right? So no longer are we just dealing with petroleum as a substance, we're dealing with everything. So it was a movement forward by our association and the membership to understand that there are other things that we're working on and not just to, pigeonhole ourselves into just petroleum. So, yeah. So we did awesome. That. It was a lot of work. We're still working on it. Our branding is still coming out. When you're working with a volunteer organization, you're working with the capacity that people have. And, after full-time jobs and raising families, sometimes you don't have a whole lot of gas in the tank. So
Was there
absolutely, that's great.
Was there resistance to that change amongst the membership?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I did get some feedback. There was some choice words that were not very Canadian.
They were more French.
Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, there was definitely some people that had a hard time with change. I mean, as humans, we don't like change. Let's be fair, right? So it was hard, and I can understand that. There's a legacy that's been built with this association, right? So it was tough, but also understanding that for the future and for the generations to come, we need to evolve. And I'm of the opinion that I would rather have control over that versus somebody telling us that we need to do it. So yeah, so we struck a name change committee. And the name change committee brought back some suggestions to the board. The board brought it out to the association. The association had to vote on it. And so they voted on it and they voted in favor. It was a very rough week. So we have online voting. And so by the end of the week, when the results came in, it was in favor of the name change. So,
was it close?
Yeah, it definitely was, but not enough that it was enough to pass. So
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's accomplishing a lot. Good job. That's wonderful.
So with AAPL, I mean, their name changed decades ago, but changing the definition of land work to include all energy sources. I mean, it was somewhat of a contentious argument, and we were just talking about like the definition of what are we going to call land work. And it went through numerous iterations and debates and conversations over it. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of traditional mindsets.
Jerris, you were pretty influential in that decision, right? Like, I mean, that was part of why you were really involved. Is that right?
I mean, so at the time I didn't have voting rights, but I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut. And so I did voice some opinions here and there as to what I thought stuff ought to be. But, well, I mean, I said, I didn't vote on anything. So no, it's not like anybody could say that I was responsible or not responsible for it.
That's right. And I think that's what people need to recognize is that even without a vote, you still have influence, right? So
times are a-changing. So what else do you see that is changing within the profession? Either that people like or don't like, or like what are stuff that you get really excited about that you feel like everybody else is behind on or hasn't quite caught up to yet?
It's not so much what people are behind on. I think it's just the evolution of what it looks like for the future generations, right?
Okay.
So understanding that the regulatory bodies need to also stay in tune with how things are changing too, right? So we talked a little bit about the regulations and whatnot for renewables. Those needed to change. Those still need to evolve. We do struggle to get projects built here in Canada. Takes a little bit longer to build a pipeline here than it does down in the south. So you want to definitely be ahead of that. But it depends on, who's in office at the time, right? And whether you have that support. And I think, the biggest thing that people need to understand is that Canadian energy is here to stay, right? And it's benefiting not just us, it also benefits our neighbors to the south, right? Like, and that's the thing is it's the most regulated industry out there when it comes to oil and gas. Like, Canada's where it's at. I mean, I'm going to say that loud and proud because I'm here. And you might see some of my I Love Canadian Energy shirts next week.
Nice.
But yeah, like it's, we go through so many hoops to get to where we are in this day and age. And I think that people need to understand that we have so many advances in technology supporting us, the clean energy movement, like, the carbon capture, just to name one of them. And what we're doing, like the money that's being invested in the clean movement it's coming from the oil and gas sector because we always are looking to evolve. We want to evolve into better citizens, protecting things that we need to. Like, we're not just going out there recklessly, and I don't want to say Billy Bob Thornton in it, but, just plugging wells wherever, right? There's so many restrictions that we have. And, industry is welcome to working within those confines, but also understanding that there has to be a little bit of leniency when it comes to the regulatory bodies that we deal with. So,
I think there's been a real change and that I've seen in the States Petroleum Alliance and some of these other groups have really done a good job of, just like what you said, of trying to get the public to understand how much goes into the safety and how much just into the well-being of building a responsible, industry. And that really is wonderful to hear that Canada shares that same thing. I mean, obviously they would, but both Canada and the United States working so hard to make sure that the industry is following all the regulations and building, strengthening that together for sure.
Yeah. Like your most valuable asset at the end of the day are your people.
That's
and
right.
you want your people to come home. Right. And so when they're out in the field, I mean, if we all sat and watched Landman for the millionth time again and understood the safety regulations that they're violating.
Only a couple hundred.
So, but, you guys don't also deal with the snow either. So maybe you do up where Jerris is.
If there was going to be a Canadian version of the Landman TV series, how would it be different than the one that just aired?
Well, you would have Ryan Reynolds.
All right, I'll watch it.
Absolutely, we'll let you have him. But yeah,
okay,
Reynolds.
All right.
It was funny because I was looking it up and I was like, I don't know, like, what you would like differ, like outside of the Hollywood-esque of it. I was like, the cartel, like who would that be?
Yeah,
like,
who would the cartel be?
I was like, I don't know, like maybe like some
like maple syrup farmers or something.
Yeah, right. Like I don't know, like Quebec. I mean, there's always been that separation talk, so maybe that, maybe some other industry. Like, I mean, we work so well with other industries here, right? So it's tough to say. We work hand in hand with the ag industries a lot, right? So I wouldn't say that it would be them, but I struggle with that one. So, like, I wish I could give you some sort of synopsis on how that looks like, but I really can't.
It would be about the scenery.
The scenery
would be different.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, specifically with talking about like energy development in Canada, I mean, you go from like the oil sands in Alberta to the fields in BC, all the way out to the offshore development in Newfoundland. Like, there are just so many vast arrays that like you could, I mean, it's so different, right? So
that's awesome.
I mean, you could be going out on a helicopter to one of the offshore platforms in Newfoundland, and then the next day you could be driving down an access road in the middle of the prairies. Like, it's just, it's so different. So,
have you ever had the pleasure of going to Midland, Texas?
No.
Oh boy,
thanks.
You got to get there. Especially, I'll suggest in July or August.
Yeah, so they don't have Chinooks. Experience. They don't have Chinooks, but they do have haboobs.
Chinook.
They have haboobs, so you would have to look for a haboob.
What's a haboob?
Oh, you'll just have to go and find out.
Oh goodness!
I don't like this game. I don't like this game at all.
I
was gonna say they'd have a Chinook, but it was just hot air holding more hot air on. It's like, oh yeah, we got it, but it's just holding it on even harder. So.
Okay, yeah, heat.
God bless it. That's right.
So, Calgary is the oil and gas hub.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, what city in the U.S. would that parallel to?
I mean, scenery-wise, it's very similar to Denver when you look at the scenery, but like in terms of like,
let's say oil and gas.
Corridor. Yeah, I would say Houston without a doubt.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We're not all concrete though. I always look at Houston as such a concrete city. So I think of like energy corridor there on the west side of Houston. It's very similar. So
okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have not been to Calgary yet. There's a couple of times when I almost went, but I have not actually been yet.
We'll work on that. We'll get you up here. It's really not that far from Denver.
It really is. I was so surprised. I mean, I was so surprised because for Oklahoma, it's about an hour and 15-minute flight from Oklahoma City to Denver. And then I think it was only 2 hours and 50 minutes or something like that. It was right under 3 to get to Calgary. And
yeah, we're not that far away.
No, not at all.
Yeah, there's this imaginary line we call the border, and it, would treat us like foreigners, but hey.
As proud delegates of the United States of America, Jerris and I deeply apologize for that. Under our authority, yes.
I do, yes.
It's all good.
So last year your first NAPE?
It was.
Okay, so you were a rookie. You're no longer a rookie. So what are the tidbits of things that you learned from your first year that other people should know if they're going their first time?
Comfortable shoes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's right.
definitely comfortable shoes.
End of
Mhm.
story.
Stay hydrated.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Don't overdo it. You know what? NAPE comes every year, and the excitement of getting the invites to the open houses and stuff. And obviously, it was my first, so I was like, "Oh, I have to do all of
Everything.
it."
Yeah.
And I stayed at the Hilton last year, and definitely got sucked into the vortex of the Hilton lobby.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's legendary.
I'm not staying there this year.
Man, are you still staying in the downtown area?
I am. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, when it's nice weather and you can walk between the different hotels and like you can go to the different little happy hours around. It's just such a blast. So I think it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Calgary Stampede. I
heard a lot about that too while I was up there. They said you can't miss it. You absolutely can't miss it.
Is that like the Houston Rodeo?
Mm-hmm.
I believe so.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So it's just everybody is here to have a good time. You throw on your cowboy boots for 10 days for those of us that don't actually farm. And yeah, it's just there's a different vibe around the city. That you kind of forget that people come for Stampede because the corporate side of Stampede is so different. We're entertaining clients. There's industry events. Like it's, and then you're like, oh yeah, those guys aren't from here.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, people actually come here. Cool.
I definitely want to make it up to it. It sounds like it's an absolute blast. When is it each year?
It's usually around the first weekend in July, and
Okay.
10 straight days.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Do offices close and things like that?
So parade day is the first Friday of Stampede, and most people take the morning off.
Okay.
And the parade route is downtown, so it's kind of difficult to get to your office if you wanted to. But a lot of people do like a breakfast. Like, you can start at a breakfast in the morning and go to a luncheon and then end at a barbecue. Like it's a marathon. It's definitely a marathon.
Marathon, not a sprint.
Oh, absolutely.
Sounds like that's NAPE's. Yeah, that is exactly what people are used to.
Yeah. So, but we have 10 days, whereas NAPE is essentially 2.
Yeah. Jerris, we got to figure out how we can get sponsored to go up there. What do you think? The Real Deal Landman Show? I mean, how do we take this on the road?
I'll talk to my people.
I
think the Canadian Association of Land and Energy Professionals need to have a live show at like an annual meeting or something like that.
No, these are now we're cooking with gas, kids.
When you come to the U.S., what do you take back home with you?
Oh gosh, I knew you were going to ask this question. Chex Mix, it's one of them. Have you ever heard of
Chex Mix?
Yeah.
You don't have that there?
Well, it's funny because like sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. I think it's more of a seasonal thing. But I go to Costco and get like the big bags,
the huge bags. Nice.
Bunch of Crunch. It's like a Crunch bar.
That's from here.
Never heard of it.
Yeah,
I have never heard of that one.
Yeah, I can't get it in Canada.
Okay.
What else do I bring back? Well, I mean, let's talk about my Trader Joe's.
Okay, so yeah, you have a Trader Joe's obsession.
I do, yes.
So you have, where Trader Joe's locations are in every city that you might be visiting in the U.S.
I've already mapped out next week.
Do you rent a car? How do you do that? Like, do you rent a car and do you bring an extra suitcase? How do you take all this stuff home?
I always bring an extra suitcase, but I always bring a suitcase full of Canadian snacks.
Okay.
And then I drop
So
those.
nice of you.
Yeah.
Incredibly nice of you.
Wait, so you just give those out to people?
Yeah. Well, if you're on my friends list.
Oh, interesting.
We got to make so let me tell you, Janice.
Guess
So
we'll see next week.
When we were up there last week, the company that we went and talked to gave us some of the absolute, and Jerris, this is fantastic because I just grabbed these from my desk. They gave us some of the coolest stuff. So we've got Smarties, but they're different. They're different than the Smarties you would be used to here.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I love Smarties.
And I've tried them, and they're really, really good. We've got a coffee crisp bar, which is, and it's a Nestle product.
Does it
Don't
taste
worry,
like
I'm
coffee?
bringing you some next week. It's okay.
And then the creme de la creme is the maple syrup, which I got in trouble for whenever it was in my carry-on.
Because it was a liquid?
Because it was a liquid and it was right over the 3 ounces, and they were not too thrilled. And I was like, you can just, it's okay, you can toss it. And the lady was like, oh no, we don't toss maple syrup. Go ahead and take it. So that was the very, very Canadian thing, and I was totally on board with it. I couldn't stop smiling. But I love.
Did she apologize to you?
Yeah, oh, sorry. The what everybody talks about how everyone is so nice up there. We saw it. I mean, in spades. It was fantastic. Everyone was so open and welcoming and wanting to share the culture and everything with us. And I know it's just like the neighbor up north and we're the neighbor down south, but it is really cool whenever we get to experience things that aren't necessarily something that we have every day. And so you bringing cool food down and being able to go to Trader Joe's and get everything under the sun and take back. This is the trade that our two countries need to continue to establish. I just absolutely adore it. I think it's great.
And we have international relations being enhanced here on the Real Deal Landman Show.
So, and last thing on the food, can you give us a rundown of why you guys like ketchup chips so much?
What's a ketchup chip?
I don't know. Like, I'm not a fan of them, to be honest, so I really can't speak to it. But yeah, the chips that taste like ketchup.
Ooh.
Every day we
like
drift further from God's light.
Yeah, like
I'm gonna bring a bag down for you just so you can try. But the ones that I like are all dressed. So.
And that's just like a little bit
cheap.
of every flavor, or like what's the okay?
Exactly how it sounds, all dressed.
I like that. I can get on board with that.
Do you have any parting words for us? Any wisdom that you want to share with listeners, watchers?
You make me feel old now when you say wisdom. Like that's.
Are there any really smart, cool, hip stuff that you want to share with our
peers? That's what we were looking for.
Then you use the word hip. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think at the end of the day, obviously being, the token Canadian out here, the two Americans next to me, I think that people just need to recognize that we're all one and the same at the end of the day, right? Like, be a good person. Doesn't matter where you live. Just be a good person, right? Like,
Here.
That's all what we're here for. You only get one chance at it. And
very nice.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Good closing note for sure.
Yes.
Well, Janice, I hope you can swing by our booth. I know we'll probably catch up while we're down in Houston next week. We're definitely looking forward to meeting you in person. Absolute pleasure having you on today. Jerris, you've got a booth for like
Roland AI.
Roland AI.
Yep.
Do you know the booth number off the top of your head? You said
2324.
2324. Make sure you check out Roland AI. This is kind of the big welcome to the industry for Roland. Is that right?
It is.
That's
huge.
Yeah. Is it near the popcorn stations?
No, we are near the beer garden.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, but it's spelled BIERGARTEN. So I don't know if you still say beer garden or if you say something else. But yeah,
that's really going international. That's the very
on what time of the day.
Yeah, that's where we're going to be. And so, I mean, Roland will be like, if you want to know about American energy land rights and how that stuff works, like that's like for people at Canada West or Canadian Landman that are looking to work in the U.S., this is your AI tool to be able to figure that out and to learn it. And it's got a bunch of really cool features to it that we're excited to roll out.
I think that's super exciting. You should be so incredibly proud that you guys are putting that out. This is a big deal for you guys.
It is. It's fun. And then in conjunction to that, no offense to Drew here, but I think I'm going to launch a solo show here soon that'll be like land and AI type stuff. Yeah. You can be a guest. We'll share some of your drumline pictures or something like that on there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. As long as you can work me in.
No, but we're all gonna have a lot of fun. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up next week.
we've got a ton going on. Jerris is going to be doing that AI podcast. Make sure that if you're listening to this, make sure that you connect with him there. Do we know when that's going to launch yet?
Going to be recording. Actually, we're going to be recording at NAPE. That'll be our first one. So I've got one for that one and one for this one that we're going to be doing.
Awesome. And that's going to be at booth 1617.
1617, yes.
1617. Stop by, say hello. We would absolutely love to see you. So, for Drew Hopkins, Jerris Johnson, Janice Redmond, thank you so much for listening to another edition of the Real Deal Landman Show, and we will see you at NAPE.
See ya.